Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to episode 92 of the Dads and Ed podcast. We're getting ready for Thanksgiving. It is almost that time of year. I don't know about you, Devin. I have been doing what I'm thankful for projects with kids, and a lot of them include turkey, and it really makes me hungry as they are getting new pictures added to their projects.
Yeah, no, that's good. The Thanksgiving, I was just talking to my basketball girls today. It's one of my favorite things we do every year with my team is do Thanksgiving. So yeah, I can't believe it's next week. What is it? This is the earliest Thanksgiving can be in a month, right?
Really?
With it being on a Thursday. So the 1st of November was a Thursday, which means the 4th Thursday would be the 22nd. So it's, I think this is as early as it can be.
Interesting. Yeah. Look at that tidbit. We are less than 2 minutes in, and I already learned something. I hope you listening did as well. If not, you're probably not surprised by that. But if you want to drop some knowledge on the show or what your favorite food is at Thanksgiving, tweet at us at Dads and Ed. In fact, I think that should be a requirement. If you listen,
probably
tweet at us.
Yeah,
Dads and Ed. Favorite Thanksgiving meal or food?
Yeah.
Bill Little, drop in the YouTube chat there. What your favorite food is for Thanksgiving? Yes, tweet at Dads and Ed. Use the hashtag Dads and Ed. If you was part of the show, you can watch this live or watch it recorded. I mean, the live version at dadsanded.com. As always, subscribe to iTunes or Google Play. Just do a search for Dads and Ed. We're also, as you well know by now, proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Check them out at edupodcastnetwork.com. Bill, turkey and stuffing. Is that so? Mine actually, to be honest, I like the Friday leftover meal. I do a hot turkey sandwich. It is fabulous.
Yeah, I'm going to say no to that. I hear a lot of people talk about the after, and I trust me, I will eat it up the day after and the day after that, and if there's any left the day after that. But I much prefer the actual meal. And I would say, and even though it's bland, I give Bill a hard time about going with the obvious of turkey and stuffing. I don't know why, but mashed potatoes taste better on Thanksgiving.
I would agree with that.
I believe that to be true.
Probably because potatoes it's the more of the season for potatoes.
Is that true?
No. I just wanted to sound smart after you did. I thought it was pretty good though.
What potato season is though, so
I almost went with that and lied about it. But I'm trying to turn over a new leaf and not do that as often. I have no idea. And my luck, we would have like tens of listeners from Idaho that would correct us about how it's like a spring season. I don't know. Whatever. Speaking of turkey season, that means it is college football season. We are in the time of year where we start the rankings, which really sometimes drives me nuts because it provides more fodder for media people to play games and do all sorts of bizarre things, hypotheticals. As we speak on today, whatever today is, November 14th, number one team in the country is Alabama. Number two is Clemson. That is not really disputable in football terms. Followed then by Notre Dame and Georgia. No. Oh, my goodness.
All right.
Dang it. I thought I knew this one. No, because Georgia and Oklahoma are 5 and 6. They are the first two out. So
yeah. Right.
I am missing an obvious one, and it's kicking my butt.
Is it Michigan?
Yes, Michigan. Speaking, ironically enough, one of the teams that has waxed my favorite college football team this year, Michigan Wolverines. One of the podcasts I was listening to today, talked about this massive Armageddon situation where Alabama loses to Georgia, You know, you have Notre Dame lose to Syracuse or somewhere else.
Yeah.
And you end up with like 9 one-loss teams and Clemson.
Right.
Like, can you imagine how crazy that would be to try and figure out who the 4 best teams are there?
Yeah, it's hard enough even with teams with 1 loss. You know, I mean, it's hard enough to figure out who that would be. But yeah, if you had a couple of those teams lose, that would be pretty interesting. You know, and I would say I've paid less attention to that top, you know, top 4, top 5 this year as I have lots of other teams. And I've said this to people I know, and I'm not a Nebraska fan, you know that. But
you've made that clear multiple times.
Multiple times, but I've gotten to the point where I felt really bad. Like I was feeling sad for them. So I was actually kind of rooting for them to get a couple of wins there. I didn't know that I would ever admit that out loud, but it's been. I was kind of rooting for them. I was watching a couple games, thinking, "Gosh, it's got to be this week, right?" I mean, they can't go 0-11, 0-10, and they didn't. So that's good. I feel better for them now, and it'll be soon enough that I can go back to rooting against them every week, and that'll be fun.
Glad you could hop on the empathetic bandwagon.
If I'm nothing else, I'm empathetic.
Speaking of local surprises, one of the other things, the podcast today, there is I was listening to Campus Conversations, the ESPN podcast, and the one positive I thought was interesting I took away from it is Iowa State still has a chance to play in the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah.
You know, if things go the right way.
Right.
You gotta have massive things happen, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, that would still be pretty cool, I think. They're just a good story, you know. Iowa State has, you know, not year after year, but for in many years they have been just a good story. You know, team you wouldn't expect to go out there and win much, and they kind of make it work. Even this year with, you know, that Purdy kid that's at quarterback. I mean, he's their 3rd stringer this year, you know,
something like that, yeah.
And just that kind of stuff happens all the time. It seems like with Iowa Western or with Iowa State. So that's kind of cool. Other football news, I would say that you know, if you didn't see it, your little video, you know, Lewis Central, where you work, making it to the Dome and making it to the state football semifinals. Little video you got a touchdown was pretty nice.
Yeah. So as you all know, I do the social media for our school district, and this was the first time we had ever made it to play in the Dome. So Iowa State football semifinals and finals are played at UNI, which is the only Dome stadium in the state of Iowa where football is played. And so it's a big deal. Yeah. Anytime you make it that far. And I think they said they've been playing there for 40 years or something like that. I might have just made that number up, but it's pretty close to that. And we'd never been that far. We made it to the quarterfinals last year. We've got a phenomenal team. We've got a couple of Division I prospects. And so, yeah, we went up to the Dome. It's a 4-hour drive. So we left at 2 o'clock for an 8 o'clock game at night, which is horrible. We got there, and so I, of course, first time, so I'm reading all the rules, don't want to mess up. They said you can have 3 people. Okay, we'll do that. It's not ideal. We'd love to have more, obviously. We got kids that are interested. So we have a yearbook person, and we have Carter, who's does the majority of our graphic design stuff, is a junior. And so I get there early. I go with the AD, right up with him, so get there early so we can be ready. Get there, the lady behind the counter says, you can only have 1 person down there. And I said, you mean like 1 plus, like, or the like kids plus 1, right? She goes, no, 1. So for better or worse, I'd actually been emailing somebody from the governing body. I don't remember what the acronym is. And I had a really great conversation with him about some other stuff. I just wanted to make sure we were clear what we had been doing with Instagram stories, you know, short video clips would be okay. And, you know, he had said earlier that day, hey, if you need anything, just let me know. Mm-hmm. So I did. Sent him a quick message. Just said, hey, that's not what I thought. And he came up and said, yeah, it was a change that we had made and she didn't know, and not a big deal. So yeah, we ended up on the field, which, you know, being on the field for a football game is just, it's fun to be down there. And
yeah,
we had I have taken the position of always I don't, especially now that Carter's doing a lot of the video, I don't need to be right up on the sideline all the time. I just kind of go hang out in the end zone because we have a pretty big scoring average. So
yeah.
we had one of our wide receivers ran an out pattern, and it ended up being right where I was standing on the goal line. He caught it on his tiptoes, posed, got knocked over.
Yeah.
It was a perfect place at the perfect time. So
yeah, no, it was a cool video if you haven't seen it. And I think the other thing I sent Josh, sent you a message the other day asking about what are the little graphics that Carter had made. I've been so impressed. It's got to be cool for you too to see the graphics and the images and the stuff that not only he's been doing, but that some of your other folks have been doing.
Yeah.
Especially at the sporting events, because that's what I see probably more than anything else. But that's just been really great. And I put something out the other day. I haven't found one, but looking for a social media intern for my girls basketball program, because I'd love to have some of the same things happening at all of our games. So again, that stuff's been really, really cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks. It's Hank Bounds, who's the president of the University of Nebraska system, talked when he started just about how, at least for Nebraska, football is the front porch of the university. That's what gets people here. You think about when you think about Duke University, the first thing you think about is basketball.
Right.
If you think about, I don't know, I'm trying to think of another good example. North Carolina would be basketball. Syracuse is basketball. Sports is a gateway to a lot of what you're doing. And if I look at the social media data that we have, I mean, that stuff is what is, getting us noticed by people. We've added, in the week that we went between when we clinched and when we went to the semifinals, we added almost 100 people on Facebook.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And we've had Facebook for 4 years. So, I mean, it's just athletics, whether we like it or not. And there's some people that don't like the athletics part. They want it to focus on academics. And by all means, we share that.
Right.
But athletics are really a huge deal to get people there. Football's especially here in the state. But yeah, it's been fun. It's good to have kids that are talented and willing to do that.
Right.
Hopefully we've got some ways to carry that over into basketball, and wrestling, but we'll see.
And the thing we talk about too is it's a lot harder with say basketball, just because of the number of events. When you play once a week for football, it's you have a little more time there. I've been trying to create some graphics and things for our program for each game, and it's for me, I had to sit down and do that, like 22, 23 events.
Yep.
To try and have those ready to go and be able to share, but it takes time.
Well, and the other thing about football is it's stop and go.
Yeah.
Basketball for the most part, so what a lot of what we're doing, we have kids that are taking pictures, and then I've been doing some vertical video and Instagram stories, and that's easier to do when it's football because it's stop and go. And I'm not sure if we'll do that during basketball, just because it is. That's a lot of video recording for 10 seconds that you hope to get.
Right.
So, I don't know. We'll see. We don't really have a playbook for it, but it's been a lot of fun. So,
yeah, no, it's been great stuff.
Let's see. Dad moment of the week. I am going to pre-brag on my wife a little bit. This is the second year in a row that she has organized the Giving Tree event at our kids' school. It's called Cookies and Cocoa. She organizes the families that, basically everybody comes in. You get cookies and cocoa. You grab a tag off a tree for a local family, not in our school, but we work with the school district to find people that are in need. We're also working with a local organization called Heartland Family Services that provides things for families in need. And so my wife organizes the event that we're having tomorrow night at our kids' school. She prints all the tags, she collects all the stuff, she organizes it out, and it's pretty cool to watch. She something that she's excited about. She doesn't have to attend a lot of meetings, which is always good. But
Yeah.
she's kind of, this is year 2, and it's kind of it's been fun to, once you've been through it once and you kind of know the system and know what to do, it's fun to kind of watch her do that and, help out a little bit. The kids are excited. They're going to go early tomorrow and help her, and I'll roll in for the cookie and cocoa.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah,
I want to get that gig if I can.
Yeah, it's a good one. I'll tell you.
Roll in for cookies and cocoa if I can get it. My dad moment of the week is really kind of just this, us trying to figure out, once basketball season starts, I've talked about this every year, I think, but it gets hectic. And, with the girls doing all kinds of things, we were trying to figure out yesterday. I remember I got a call from both girls at the end of their school day about who was picking, can you come pick me up? And sometimes I'm able to go pick up and get them to Aaron's mom's, and sometimes I'm not. And I texted my wife and just said, okay, what's the standard here? Like, I don't know what the daily routine is. And we've been lucky that her mom has been so willing to help pick up girls, but schedules are getting so hectic, and trying to find a way to make sure that everybody gets to where they need to get to, while I'm also coaching and Aaron's teaching a couple of evening classes, college classes. Man, it gets tough. And we just keep looking at it and saying, oh man, we are just moments away from having to get a car for Grace just so that she can help get herself and her sister places, so long as it's on her school route. Because I just don't know how we do it. I don't know how families do it. I don't know, as kids get older and they have more kids than we do, I don't know how people get their little people everywhere they need to be.
Yeah, it's definitely, an adjustment. As you know, I was actually just talking with one of our coaches, one of our football coaches' wives today, because now that football season's over with, just about readjusting back into society.
Right.
And that's one of the things that she was talking about. I feel like that happens to me in the summertime, is just trying, my wife's here all the time. Things are going well. And I come back in and that's what this teacher was saying too, is that her husband comes back after being gone for so long, and all of a sudden it's like, why are you doing this? And she goes, I just tell him to shut up. You haven't been here for 4 months. I don't want to hear about what you think parenting should be like. You're lucky all 4 kids are still alive.
Well, and that's the thing. So like, even we try and figure out, like, on days, or are there days where I can get at least help out? Like, I feel like I need to help out. Like I hate being in a position where I feel like every day, I'm not doing anything, because I'm getting home after dinner's made. I'm not able to pick up the girls most days after school. But it is like, okay, what can I do? Even if I have 30 minutes or 40 minutes after school until practice starts, can I go and pick them up and get them, if not all the way home, can I get them to where they need to be, so that it's one less thing that either my wife has to do or that they have to figure out where they're going? Because I feel like, even though, so we've been really good about we have a Google Calendar that's kind of on all of our phones, and our girls have gotten pretty good, especially Claire, about if they have something, they put it on the calendar, and it helps keep us organized. But even at that, it's just like, I don't know how we always get people places. Like, I feel like every day, like, I'm going to forget something and somebody's going to just be stranded and not be able to get where they need to get to. It hasn't happened.
Go ahead. Sorry. What'd you say?
I said it hasn't happened yet. We haven't left anybody's.
Yeah. I always feel like that day's coming. I actually showed up to an 8:30 meeting today that starts tomorrow. I walked all over the school looking for this group, and I finally found them. I found the person who had invited me in with a different group, and I said, "Why aren't you guys meeting today?" She goes, "No, that's tomorrow." I was like, all right. She goes, "Remember, you were going to go to that teacher's classroom after that." I said, "No, I'm doing that today. I put this, all day I thought this was the 15th. I have no idea why, but
I did have a coaching moment of the week that's kind of similar to what we're talking about. Is we were in Atlantic, Iowa on Saturday for scrimmages, all morning. And we stopped and got something to eat on the way home. And we get in the van, and I've got 4 girls in my van as I'm driving them back. And they get in, and they're kind of goofballs. So, you know, I wasn't thinking anything of it, but everybody was in. I thought we'd drive away, and they're just kind of laughing. And I look back, I'm like, what are you guys laughing about? And they're like, you forgot Acacia. I didn't. Then I look back, and I figured she was ducking down in the back seat somewhere because the way they were laughing. And I just kept going on the street. Like, no, you really forgot her. I was like, no, I didn't. Quit messing around. Acacia, you back there? She was not back there. She was sitting at the restaurant. Luckily, the other car hadn't left yet, so they were waiting with her. But so I haven't forgotten any of my own kids, but I did forget a kid.
Wow.
But I really thought that she was.
You do have exponentially more basketball daughters than you do actual daughters. So therefore, the fact that could happen.
It is the great thing about it. I love having all those kids. My basketball girls, they are like another 15 or 16 daughters. But boy, when you forget one, they don't let you forget it.
Bet not. I would guess that lasts for a while. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that time of the show where we look a lot smarter because we invite smart people to show up with us. Tonight, we are pleased to be joined by educator, speaker, author, and all-around wonderful person, Catlin Tucker. Catlin, welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No, you're fine. We usually keep ourselves waiting, so don't worry about that.
My best laid intentions. Yeah, dinner at the table with my kids. I was like, I've got 2 minutes.
We totally understand that. How about you just want to tell us a little bit about you and your family and the things that you do?
Sure. I am the mother of a 9-year-old boy and 11-year-old daughter. So things are busy. They're great students, avid soccer players, and the soccer struggle is real as a parent. They're both in a bilingual immersion school, so they're pretty close to being fluent in Spanish at this point, which is pretty exciting. I have 16 years of experience teaching in the high school, at the high school level. I have my credential in English and technology. And this year I am on leave for kind of a range of reasons. But since we're in the middle of the fires taking place right now, last year in October, my family lost our home in the Santa Rosa fires. So that just kind of created a whole nother level of crazy in an already, challenging situation. So I'm working on my doctorate and decided, I need to just take a little break and figure out how to handle everything. So yeah, it's been quite an adventure of a year, but I have done a lot of coaching this year. So I get to go into districts for a handful of days, several dozen days, and work one-on-one as a blended learning coach. So I still get my kid fix getting into the classroom, but it could be kindergarten, it could be 12th grade. So it's very, very different than having my own little group that I work with every other day. So yeah, a little bit of an adjustment for me.
All right. We'll plan on kind of hitting on a lot of those things that you just talked about. But what you just said, I wanted to ask about because I thought it was one of the most fascinating things. So I was a high school teacher as well before my current position. And one of the things that I loved about my new position, which was working with teachers in all levels of our school districts, was the ability as a high school teacher to then get into elementary classrooms and to see the way that works and to work with those young ones too. It was eye-opening for me. I don't know what it was like for you.
So first, I should be very clear, I'm not a baby person. I really like having a 9 and 11-year-old. People with babies are like, oh, you want to hold them? I'm like, I'm good. Yeah, and then I go into first and kinder classes, and they're so funny because on one hand, I will go in and spend a 90-minute period or a 90-minute block of time with a first grade class one day. And I come back 2 weeks later, I walk through the door and they're like, Miss Tucker's back. And I'm like, what? This doesn't happen at high school. Nobody's excited to see you when you show up at high school. So that part is so fun. And they're so game. They're so curious. I could definitely do without nose picking and touching the Chromebook. Yeah. I'm always taken aback when somebody bombs me with a side hug when we've known each other for 20 minutes. So It's great. It's just so different from what I'm used to as an educator. It's hysterical, but it also makes me kind of sad because I'm like, where is this when I see you? Like, where's all this curiosity and excitement? And just like, I'm like, who wants to create a digital story? And everybody's like, we want to. You get to high school and you're like, who wants to create a digital story? They're like, oh,
right.
What are you going to do?
Can I do it on Snapchat?
Right.
I've always
text you my story.
I've always said that I think that, going into an elementary classroom for me has always felt like what I assume being a grandparent is going to feel like. Like they're always so excited to see you and you can do all these fun things with them and get them hyped up on sugar. And then you're leaving and you're leaving the teacher to clean up that mess. And I feel that has to be what grandparenting feels like.
That's a true story. That's a great analogy, actually. I bet that is exactly what it's like.
At least I'm hoping so. Like at some point when I'm a grandparent, I'm hoping it's exactly like that.
Devin, you announced on the last show you were a grandparent.
I did. Yeah, that experiment is over. The baby has gone back to the school. My daughter, Catlin, is a freshman in high school.
She had to do the baby challenge.
Yeah. We had the baby thing for 5 days. And it was interesting. And that time is up. I'm looking forward to not being a grandparent for another,
Catlin, I had actually seen the pictures on Instagram, and when he dropped that during a live show, I had the exact same response that you did, and I even knew it. So it's funny you guys mentioned this. So I do have my bachelor's is in elementary ed, and I work a lot with kindergarten and first grade teachers because we have new Chromebooks, and I've built a good relationship. And I was in first grade classroom yesterday. We are thankful book, or my Thanksgiving books, whatever, using Book Creator. And the teacher, as I was leaving, and I was there for over an hour. Like we drew a picture because we have touchscreen Chromebooks, and we recorded ourselves saying what we're thankful for. And the teacher goes, I don't know how you do that. Like, you should just stay here all day. And I go, here's the thing. I can do this for an hour. I'm going to go back to my office, shut the door, and I have a meeting with another adult about high school digital media. That's how I can do this. And have the patience that I have. So
See, I wasn't blessed with a lot of patience as like a human being. So I guess that's maybe why I struggle.
That's why you fit so well with high school, huh?
It is. I'm a very good fit. And I very much like the 9th and 10th grade. Like not too old where they got their foot out the door and they're like, I'm too cool for school. But like the 9th grade, they come in, they're still kind of like angsty. And the funny thing is nobody wants to teach them. So all of our most senior teachers, as soon as 11, 12 opens up, man, they're on those positions. Yeah. I've been offered them so many times. And I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
9th and 10th, that's where it's at.
Awesome. Well, I want to jump to a little bit of the personal stuff. You mentioned that you had lost your fire. Your fire. We are awesome at grammar here on Dads and Ed. You lost your house last year in a fire, and now you're dealing with it again. We do not have forests, number one, in the Midwest per se. We deal with grass fires and stuff like that, but nothing of this magnitude. So for those of us that don't understand kind of what it's like living through that, on a day-to-day basis, kind of walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, what's so interesting is like pre-fire, there have been many fires clearly in history, but pre my fire, fires were something that happened, but I never was fearful that my house was going to burn down. And then nothing leading up to the fire, there was no warnings the day before, oh wow, winds, there could be a problem. It was me waking up at 2:30 in the morning because a cop decided, thank goodness, to drive up our private drive where there's 26 homes and yell in his megaphone, get out of your houses. And so it was scooping up kids in pajamas with tennis shoes and a blankie and putting them in the car and trying to find a cat that never materialized, getting our dog in the back and driving away from our house with one of our cars in the driveway. Genius move. If you think your house might burn down, maybe just take both cars. And so the aftermath, as parents or as a parent, it wasn't about me. It was just about, oh my gosh, are my kids, going to be traumatized? Because I have had students who talk about the things that have been hard for them in their lives. And moving homes is like a big deal, let alone losing everything you've accumulated your whole little, life.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily in the aftermath, like I think I'm very routine oriented. The kids very much, even when we were like staying with friends, it was like I made dinner, they took a bath, we read books, they went to bed. I tried to keep it as structured and familiar as possible. But one of the things I definitely felt in the aftermath was, gosh, you realize how much as a teacher to be engaged with your students, you have to have a level of emotional availability for kids. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm on leave right now, is because I was like, man, these kids deserve more than I have right now. Everything I have is going to my own little kids. And I just I'm exhausted by all the dimensions of teaching, because our jobs are about so much more than teaching them English or how to use technology. It's like so multifaceted. And I was like, I feel sucked dry. So it's been a real interesting journey for me personally. And now that there are more fires, I'm like, oh my gosh, we live in this time in California where my kids' school was canceled on Friday. It was canceled on Tuesday. All their soccer stuff in the weekends canceled. I'm like, school's canceled because of smoke, not because of weather, and that's kind of disturbing on a whole nother level as I start to rebuild. And I'm like, am I ever going to feel truly safe?
Right.
Or is this just always a threat? It's
well,
crazy.
I thought that, when you sent me the message today about the smoke and the schools being closed, it's just like, you really can't fathom. I mean, it's not something that is necessarily something we can think about. And, I thought when I read, thinking back to your blog post after that happened, I think I remember you saying something like your husband, as you were leaving, your husband not even thinking that you guys were not coming home.
Right.
But it was just kind of like, okay, we'll be back. I got to take enough to get through a couple of days and we'll be back. Like, that's got to be a really surreal thing to look back on and think about leaving at that moment, not thinking forever.
Oh, yeah. And we probably could have, in hindsight, I don't think our house burned down until 4:35 in the morning, and we left at 2:30. And I'm like, what could we have grabbed if I had known I had 2 hours? But the good piece is we got out of our neighborhood without seeing flames. I think that piece, there wasn't that trauma, which was great for my kids. But it was heartbreaking to have been a year out and then know that people are just facing this, even later, closer to the holidays than we were when we lost our home. It's just kind of a tough time of year for this all to be happening.
Right. And I would say the last thing I would really want to maybe touch on with that is the amount of, and we've talked a lot on this podcast about kind of the connectedness that we feel online sometimes, and that outpouring of thoughts and prayers and money and all those things from a community that maybe sometimes feels like it's kind of ethereal, like it's not really there, but it was really tangible at that moment, I would think.
Oh my goodness. To be really frank, I never would have set up a GoFundMe page for myself. I don't like to ask for help. I'm just kind of like, I can do it. I can do anything. I can't, but that's what my internal dialogue says.
Yeah.
And then to have really everybody, all these people, so many of whom I had never met, but were like, oh my gosh, your blog has helped me in this way. Or, oh, I've learned so much from reading this. It was just for people who don't think you can build a true, meaningful network of relationships and connections online, you just go through something like that and you just treasure people's generosity and kindness. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. You make a great transition there back to the professional side. I was looking through your Twitter timeline today, and it is a lot of it does revolve around your blog, whether it's you sharing out some of the posts that you've had or interactions with different teachers, either around you or like we were talking about globally. What do you get from the blog? We've talked a lot about reflection and how we wish we'd write more and all of that, but just talk about what it does for you and the interactions you get from other educators.
Absolutely. So I will first apologize. My Twitter feed is usually more exciting, though I just came off of my week down at Pepperdine for my doctoral classes. And whenever I am there, I am just brain numbingly overwhelmed and swamped. But so it wasn't the most scintillating read, and for that I apologize.
Well, let's be clear. This isn't the only like day that I've ever looked at your Twitter feed. So I'm just saying that's one of the things we do is, okay, well, what's been going on? So we go back through it.
For sure. So for me, blogging has been, it really is my reflective practice. It's my opportunity to kind of metacognitively think about what am I doing and why am I doing it and what's working and what's not working. And it is also very much my attempt to just share. Like teachers, you know, there's all this talk about, oh, don't recreate the wheel. But sometimes there's not, you know, like I really want to share what I'm doing that's working. And I hope that even if teachers can't just like make a copy of the thing that I shared, they can copy and adapt, and I've saved them time, or I've given them, I think what I do really well, and there's a lot of things that I don't do well, but one of the things that I do well is just taking some of these ideas and making them really concrete with resources and strategies. And I want teachers to benefit from that, even if they never buy one of the books that I've actually written. And so my blog keeps me accountable to that reflective practice, because now I have a lot of people who read it and I get a lot of traffic. And if I don't blog, you know, I get swamped in my doctoral studies and I don't blog for a week and a half, I'm like, crap, I have not blogged. I need to get on this. Like, what am I going to do? And I love writing. I think it's my also way of processing new ideas, which is helpful for me. And when I get frustrated by things in education, instead of going on like a Twitter tirade, I channel it into these conversations on my blog. And for the most part, the dialogue I have with teachers is phenomenal. Sometimes my blog feels like a part-time job because teachers are funny. I'll share a strategy and then they're like, what would this look like in a third grade math class? And I'm like, I'm not a third grade teacher. Like, math's not my jam. Like, I can brainstorm with you, but you've just put a big ask on my blog, you know? So, you know, I do my best, but it's nice. It is nice to have that back and forth. And a lot of teachers are very appreciative to have concrete resources.
And I would agree. Like, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think the one thing that I've always appreciated about whether it's your blog or books or other projects that you've worked on is it seems like maybe even more than other places that I tend to go, it is very practical. I mean, they are things that are actually have actually happened in your classroom, or that you have worked with people on actually doing in their classroom. Not a lot of it is necessarily theory, or it seems very practical.
No, yeah, I really debated. PhD, everybody knows. EDD, kind of more my style, because like, do I want to research and create theories, or do I want to pin theories down into practice? Like, that's what I'm good at. That's what I really enjoy. I love curriculum design. So as much as I'm interested in the theories and stuff behind what we're doing, I don't know that that's like the thing that keeps people coming back to my blog. What keeps them coming back is like, oh, she's sharing little bite-sized things that I feel like I can actually do.
Right. And I think like Josh and I have done some work together before in some places. And I think what balances us is I tend to be more of that theory, and I tend to be more big ideas and thinking about how things can change. And Josh is much more concrete in terms of he can take some of my ideas and make them actually doable.
That's how this show works right there. If you ever wondered what makes Dad's and Ed click,
right.
Devin just synopsis, whatever. Devin, find a big word for that. Explain how this show works. He brings the ideas and the big words, and I make it happen.
But I think that's, there are so many teachers I work with who kind of need one or the other, right? I've got plenty of teachers I can work with who I can come up with an idea, and they might be able to make it work in their classroom, like come up with I see how that would work in my third grade math classroom.
Right.
And others, where I'm not probably as strong as I should be, really need that, like, here's the concrete way that's going to work. So how do you when you go work, you're doing a lot of coaching now, and what does that look like in that role for you?
So, it's interesting. In my coaching role, it's not a challenge to balance those at all. The space in which I have the hardest time is in my keynoting, because there's so many people who give keynotes and it's just like big ideas, this could happen, the future. And I'm like, I love being inspired by those people. Like they're exciting, But I think a lot of teachers, you know, when they come up and I've keynoted, I always try to anchor what I'm saying and like, this is what it looks like. And this is how I've tried it. And I get a lot of teachers who are like, thank you. Like, I feel like I can see what that looks like now. And so that's an interesting balance in the keynote space. In the blended learning, like coaching space, it is very teacher driven. Like, what are you trying to accomplish and why? And then let me literally sit down with you and co-plan and vision, like, how do we take what you're trying to do and rethink it a little bit? And then I can feed in ideas and strategies and resources. And because actually my teaching team, last year, I taught with a science and a history teacher. They called me the executor because I am the person who executes. Like, I get it done. So we're like in coaching sessions and teachers are talking about things. And as soon as they're like, oh, I love that idea, boom, I'm like starting to create. We're sharing a doc. We're in there together. So I explain the why, but I find that teachers are a lot less interested in the why behind it in that moment, in the theory driving, like, oh, social learning, it's valuable because X, Y, or Z, or, oh, construction, like, how can we get them building something? They're like, just tell me how to get this done. Like, I love what you're saying, but like, how? So it's not as hard when I'm coaching and we're having those one-on-one conversations.
Yeah.
Executioner may be the best guest nickname we've ever had on this show, and we're 92 shows in.
I totally agree.
I feel like it might not be flattering.
You made it flattering. I mean, the way you explained it's a lot. When you first said it, the vision of you planning with like a mask on was a little different, but it makes sense.
Right.
No, I heard the execution. I thought, that seems perfect because it is like I read your blog. It's like, how do I execute that? How do I make it happen? I think that's perfect. That's the shtick you should go with.
Right. A little dark, but maybe I can make it work.
Maybe, yeah. That's probably true.
Maybe not during the keynote.
No, right.
I don't know if you walk out with a mask and a guillotine if everyone's pretty pumped about that keynote.
Yeah, okay. You guys are right. I was wrong about that, but it seems like
one of the things that we ask everyone, and it really is kind of the basis of why we do this podcast, is the intersection of being a parent and being an educator. And that looks a lot different for a lot of different people. So talk to us a little bit about how being a teacher and even moving into this coaching role has impacted you, or how has being a parent impacted your role in education, either one of those.
Well, I can definitely say that being a parent made me a much better teacher, and vice versa. Being a teacher has made me a stronger parent. I think as soon as you have kids of your own, it's so much easier to kind of empathize and be flexible with the kids in front of you. They're like, oh, I had a really late soccer game and the bus was late and blah, blah, blah. And in pre-kids, I would have been like, so what? Where's your stuff? Like, give me your work, you know? And then I have kids now and I'm like, okay, no problem. Just get it to me when you can. You know, it's just so much more at ease with like, this is life and it's complicated and you are part of a whole social system with your family and you got a lot going on, and you know what, we'll make this work. In terms of like the other parts of being a parent and being an educator, and I wear a lot of hats. So, you know, I do blended learning coaching, and I don't just do it like in districts near me. Like, I do it in Palm Springs and I travel, and I was in Africa in October and working with educators there. Like, I write and I do all these other things. And so for me, I think what's hard is like that work-life balance. And I'm so blessed with so many incredible opportunities. It's very hard for me to say no. You know, we want you to come to Thailand and work with your teachers. And I'm like, oh my God, if I didn't have two tiny humans and I was responsible for carpool and we're juggling like 8 million things, I would love to come to Thailand in May and talk, you know, for 3 days with your teachers. But that's not, as much as I want to do it, it's not feasible. And so I don't have that figured out. I don't have a master plan. I spend Sundays like, you know, making lunches for the week and trying to preload my week with meals. And I have an incredible husband who's like a really true partner. So when I travel, that man picks up a lot of slack. So yeah, it is a tough balance for sure. And I say balance, which I have not achieved. It's striving for balance.
92 shows in, no one's been able to answer that question for us. That's why we got to keep it in there.
Yeah, just keep it. If somebody answers it, can you please just like let me know?
We'll send you that episode.
That'd be great.
Don't hold your breath, by the way.
No.
Well, Catlin, we do appreciate you being on the show. We do have one more segment. Do you have time to stick around for another 10 minutes?
Yeah, I would like to just say, dads,
Yes.
a podcast would lead a lady to believe that she does not need to be like put together. So I feel like you need to be like, this is a vlog and you're going to be on a video.
Okay.
Because some people weren't prepared for this conversation, maybe the way they would have been prepared otherwise.
I may have said that to Josh when you sent me, like, I don't think Catlin knows we're on video.
Catlin is for sure wearing pajama pants right now.
Nice.
Yeah. True story.
That's, that is it. So that's the hard thing about making this podcast is there's not a lot of ways to record audio. That make my life easy because we don't do a lot of editing.
Your job. You have to figure out how to make that happen.
I am the Dads and Ed executor.
I see.
So YouTube Live.
I have the idea that we have these great conversations. I don't know how to make it happen. I just know to do it.
That's what I'm here for. That's why I'm around.
Yes, I have time for the next segment. Now
all right, so
off my chest.
Okay. All right. We are doing, ironically enough, and maybe this was your entry into this, we're doing our final segment is called Sharing is Caring. Okay. We do, you can share anything that you want. It can be the where you got your pajama pants at for our listeners that didn't see them. It can be educational. It can be a person, whatever you want.
Oh my gosh, that's so open.
It is.
Yeah.
Very open.
Well, see, we used to be like really particular, and then like it'd come to showtime, and I'd be like, I don't think I even read a blog post this week, so I can't talk about one. So we'll give you time because we'll do ours first.
Oh, okay. Oh, fine.
Yes. We're all gonna do one, so you have a little bit of time.
All right.
I am going to, we talked a little bit before about the graphic design that we've been doing with our students. And I've mentioned before, we had Taylor Siebert on last time. The kids doing it is really challenging me to get better at graphic design. One website that I've started using is called materialui.co. Former guest Tony Vincent tweeted that out one day. Basically, it has all these different colors, and you click on the box and it gives you the color code that then you can copy into whatever program you're using. So it has like a full HTML color. It has like flat UI colors, which I don't even really know what that means all the time, but it's really cool. It has like all the social media ones. So if you want to use Dropbox's blue, you can click on the box for Dropbox and it will show up. So it's really cool. Like I really, God bless Book Creator and Google Slides and all that. I really hate that little slider when they're like, yeah, pick whatever color you want. I don't know. Like, I don't want to spend time like dragging and dropping. I want to look at materialui.co and say, I like that color. I'm going to click on it. I copy and paste the code into whatever.
You don't like the wheel of meshed up color that you're just like clicking around. You're like, so close, so close, so close.
It's like, and so like yesterday, like I was saying, it was first grade. We have touchscreen Chromebooks. So trying to do that on a touchscreen Chromebook, my finger does not, it's not a stylus. Yeah. Sorry, Steve Jobs. My stylus finger is too big to do stuff like that. So
agreed.
I think anyway, I use my little eyedropper extension at least every day. At least every day I think I use that thing.
Color picker, eyedropper, color pick eyedropper. I use that for our school. I just go grab the color off the school website.
So I know
but if I want something different, materialui.co. I'll tweet that out to the
awesome Dads
and Ed hashtag.
Mine is a, non-educational thing, I suppose, but it could be educational. I'm just going to share, there's a video that was going around of a Nebraska kid, I can't remember how old he is now, maybe like 12, doing a rendition of Bohemian Rhapsody on the piano. And he was doing it at a movie theater in Nebraska, kind of before seeing the Bohemian Rhapsody movie. And it is an absolutely phenomenal rendition of that song, which is obviously a pretty difficult song. And he just absolutely kills it. And it's one of those things where you can see the kid as he's playing how passionate and invested he is in music. and how much he loves this, and how people are going to kind of just start gathering around this piano and him playing there. So I shared that out to the hashtag. Again, it's just a Nebraska kid, maybe 12-year-old kid, doing an absolutely killer rendition of Bohemian Rhapsody on the piano.
That's awesome. My kids like love that song, by the way. It's like 8 minutes long. Every time it comes on, I'm like, here we go.
We actually performed when I was in junior high. It was about the time the Wayne's World came out, and they have that epic. I got to be Garth in the back seat of the car in our junior high rendition of that.
That's awesome.
And then all the hair went from your head to your beard, and that's all.
It's all she wrote.
All right, Catlin.
Okay.
Please save us from Devin's attempt at humor.
Okay, so I feel like because I'm the guest and I get to do whatever I want, I'm going to give one that is just totally mom related, and then two that is school related, because we're covering both bases. Okay. First of all, moms and dads, like people who cook in your family, you got to get an Instapot. If you don't have an Instapot, you need to go get one. And I will send out this recipe. Okay, so I'm a vegetarian. Vegetarian food is like super time intensive. There's a lot of chopping. There's a lot of prep. There is this amazing lentil and brown rice recipe that my children get excited about that takes all of like 7 minutes to put together. It's phenomenal. I will tweet it out to the dads hashtag.
Yes.
As an educator, one of the things that I am super excited about and like pushing, and it doesn't even have anything to do with technology, which is a deep irony here, but is the like idea of the one skill rubric. So I talk with teachers all the time about how a couple years ago, I just stopped taking grading home, not taking feedback home, not taking grading home, moving it all into the classroom. But then my scope had to get more refined when giving feedback and when assessing student work. And so when I coach teachers, I really encourage them to think about, if you were going to focus on one skill, in class, small group discussion, a close read, and you were going to put it on a like 1 to 4 mastery-based kind of scale, and you had to describe, what does a 1 look like beginning in a small group face-to-face discussion? What does a 2 developing look like versus 3 proficient, 4 mastery? And you actually write out that language. And then as students are working in the classroom, using those one skill rubrics to give them on the spot feedback, not even stuff you put in the grade book, but like, hey, if I was going to enter this skill right now, this is what I'm seeing. Because I think one of the things that's so interesting in education is we assess students, but there's not a lot of transparency around what we're assessing, when we're assessing it, what we're actually looking for. And so I just love the idea of like, it's a one skill, the language describes the levels, and you can use it in these very formal or informal ways with kids.
Nice. Yeah, I agree.
That was good. See, that might be the first Instapot recipe on the Dads on Ed hashtag.
I'm pretty sure.
I don't think we haven't talked about that. So look at you being groundbreaking.
And we're going into winter and like it's Instapot season.
We've debated. My wife and I have had this conversation. Like we talked about whether or not we need one of these, and apparently you're saying we do.
It's like having a crock pot and a pressure cooker and like a little slow cook all in one. I'm telling you, it's pretty amazing. I made tortilla soup on Sunday. It's really good.
All right, I'll go.
Devin, call Santa Claus and get one under your tree this year.
That's right. And maybe it happens before that. Who knows? Make Thanksgiving meal in the instant.
Black Friday is a great time to go shopping.
That is true.
That's not going to happen.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, you can order
Cyber
online.
Monday then.
It's Cyber Monday. That's my
I could do the online. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not going into a store either.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Amazon's doing all my shopping this year.
All year.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our show. Catlin, we cannot thank you enough for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
All right, we'll see everybody in 2 weeks.